what do you think would be the best way to transform sort of more formal educational systems to reflect the world we're living in, to reflect the changes that are happening? If it were up to you.
If I were like the king of education, I truly believe that it's also, transformation is another buzzword. And I truly become, as you said in the introduction of your podcast, we probably need more rebels, more revolution and that kind of thing. So what we currently see here, at least in Germany, in the education system, there is some willingness to transform, but I think the whole system is so messed up at the moment, and it's so like over the decades and all the time in there, it's so ingrained. It's really hard to transform it. So I would redesign it from scratch. So I would know, if you take everything we know, take it like all the experience, all the good examples. Finland is of course one example, but there are many charter schools in the US, many universities, maybe also schools like Alexandra's example, maybe a little bit of Shiftschool as well. So we have a lot of good examples on how to do that. Look at MIT and all the creative stuff they've done there. And a lot of research as well. So I think we have all on the table. Everything is on the table. We have a lot of research, a lot of science supporting playful experiences, learning in different ways, but we just are not able to implement it. So I would take all those learnings, get like a few smart people on board. A very diverse set of people. Should be craftsmen and women, should be scientists and also entrepreneurs, and redesign that from scratch. And I think the basic education system that I would probably design would have like maybe 6 or 7 years of elementary school in it, where pupils learn the basic foundations, reading, writing, in a playful manner. And then I would probably, since I'm quite aware that teenage or puberty is conflicting with education, I would probably send all the kids out on a more practical mission for 2 years and learn a craft and socialize with people. So it's more like an internship for 2 years, and then I would send them back to school in a system that is probably closely to the Finnish system now, something that is more project oriented, where you can just follow your strengths, your path, but you can also try out and experiment many things. And then of course I would design that into the future, that a learning system is something that is really designed to be a lifelong endeavor. So it's not about going to high school and then to university and then to work. I would design as a system where you maybe work for a few years and then have some learning sabbaticals in between, where you can reform it and question your learning and maybe reorient in a different direction, along with micro learning on the job. I think we all have to do that more. But I also see a future where we have every maybe 3 to 5 years a longer period where we have the time to reflect and really deep dive into new areas, along with the stuff that we have to learn on, like being in a job anyway. Yeah, that is what I imagine for the future, or hope we can design the future. But I have great doubts that we'll see that in a transformative process, because I've lost faith in politics, at least here in Germany at the moment, that we see anything that goes near that in the near future.
Yeah, there are countries, Tobias, that are in a much worse position at the present moment. I'm thinking of a particular country I'm living in at the present moment. So I love what you said. When are we going to start?
When or where?
When?
Well, I guess, yeah, that is the good question, is always how are we going to implement that? There are many great ideas and many discussions, and that is the big entrepreneurial question, isn't it? Really execute on great ideas. And that's basically why I founded Shiftschool, and that's why I ended up working with adults. And the reason I really think that working with kids is more fruitful, and it does make more sense to educate kids in the right way, so you don't have to re-educate adults later. So it's way more efficient to start with kids. However, I'm a rebel, and I don't have a lot of patience, and I don't want to deal with government regulation systems anymore. And that's why I ended up working with adults, because I can do whatever I want with adults. And so they come here freely, and I don't have to be regulated or accredited or whatever and deal with all that stuff. That's why I chose to work with adults, I guess, because I really value my personal freedom and trying to do what I believe in a network with people that I think are the best people to teach other people, and not because they have a formal education or are accredited or are state whatever funded or whatever that there is. And that's the trouble when you're working with kids. You have those regulations, and there's no way around that, at least not in the country I'm living in. And that's why I chose to work with adults, I guess.
I want to bounce back on the adult part. Now, the regulations, there's the good, there's the bad, because you could be creating an amazing program for kids and others could come up with the worst program that you can imagine. But it is frustrating to have to go through bureaucracy to sort of innovate and create new things, because innovation and bureaucracy, they are at the extreme, at completely different extremes. Innovation is on one end and bureaucracy is on the other end. But I want us to dig deeper into this adult education part, and I want to make it as practical for the people who are listening to us. So let's say I am a professional who has increasing responsibilities. The world around me seems to collapse, which is probably the case of most professionals in 2021. How can I best navigate through the uncertainties that surround me as a person, as an individual?
Yes, great question. And the first answer, or simple answer to that is, and I think you have mentioned that before in the discussion we had before starting this, is as we shouldn't worry so much about content, because there is an abundance of content out there. And even now in the pandemic and COVID, there is an explosion of bad content, but also good content. So every festival, every academy, every school, every university is sending their the content online, and it's all available. So we have books, we have podcasts, we have MOOCs, we have other kinds of videos, TED Talks, you name it. There is so much out there. So we don't need more content, but we need something else. We need a framework to cope with that and be able to learn. And I think that is what we're trying to build at Shiftschool. At the moment, that's the Shift Shape framework that we have built. And that basically, that framework consists of 5 pillars. And I think we need, first of all, safety. We need a room where people can freely experiment and try things out and talk about their weaknesses, shadows, failures, and also their fears. And that's what people usually don't have in company cultures. Nobody can really open up. At least I've seen so many transformation programs, and I've run so many strategic workshops in companies where that hardly is the case for many reasons. So safety is the first. The second one is what I call inspiration. So you need not like more content, but you need some kind of curation. You need somebody that can point at things and curate things, but not only in telling you more and more and more and giving you more on into your bucket list. But I think it's the exact opposite. Inspiration for me is less is more. It's more like deep focused on certain topics that somebody that is really into that can curate, and should be not only one person but more persons. So less is more in that curating sense makes a lot of sense for me, because we all feel overwhelmed in that educational arena, because there is so much content and more every day. And it's also inspiring in that sense that we need something that is outside of our filter bubbles. I think we all live in certain echo chambers, and we only see and learn what is in that. Especially if you go into the innovation arena, there's a lot of good stuff, but we also need to be confronted with the exact opposite in the world outside of our bubbles. And I think that is a job of a good learning curator as well, to confront people with opposing opinions, with something that is not in their everyday life. So that's why I, for example, oppose something like Netflix for education, where an algorithm is suggesting like even more content into the same direction to specialize you in a certain direction. I think we need the exact opposite. And so that is the second part. The third part is continuity. I've mentioned that before. I think we really need a lifelong learning approach. So we need to really put people in the position to really constantly learn. And the fourth pillar is community. So I truly believe that learning is a social endeavor. Of course, we can read books alone. We can look at videos and even have MOOCs and stuff. But I think a big reason why e-learning is failing, because it's not really social. We need other people, no matter if it's remote or live face-to-face learning. We need other people. We need the exchange. We need to compete and battle in a good sense. We need to discuss. We need that what I call creative discourse with people. So we really need to fight for the best ideas in a social setting. So that is the fourth pillar. And the fifth is what I call dedication. But dedication is, maybe a little misleading. I think we need school has to offer some kind of deadlines and accountability. We need to hold people accountable. Otherwise, they will drift off. It's the same with going to a gym. A personal trainer that is holding you accountable is crucial for success. And it's the same with learning. So we need teachers, we need systems and frameworks, and also other peers so that we hold each other accountable, so we can really create ownership. And ownership is personal responsibility and group accountability in a nutshell. So that's the thing that we need, I guess.
Your background. You went from being an anthropologist, you mentioned before our chat, to becoming an entrepreneur, a startup guy, someone running a school. Tell me, how has that transition been for you? Your background in anthropology and your previous studies, how has that impacted your perspective on multidisciplinary learning, for example?
I think you probably all know that famous commencement speech by Steve Jobs, where he's mentioning the connecting the dots. And I think that is true, especially in my case, because like in hindsight, I can now see that this is all connecting together. So the branding, the marketing, the storytelling, also the anthropology and gaining empathy and really diving and understanding other people and designing stuff that is useful for people. Also the entrepreneurial part, the digital part, it all neatly fits together. So I think, yeah, I ended up building a school for a reason. And that reason is because I've always had that basic urge to learn. I think, I don't know if you guys have, did you ever do the Clifton Strength Finder test? Do you know that one? And there's one thing, of course, there's a lot of future and strategy and all those strengths in there in my case, but learning is like the top part always. So I was always an eager learner, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I was always interested in so many many disciplines. And I just had a meeting this morning with a carpet dealer, a Persian rug dealer. And I was like interviewing him on how to make those rugs and import that kind of stuff. And so I was we were basically talking about different stuff, and he was more about digitization and e-commerce and stuff like that. When I ended up asking him more questions than the other way around. But that's the way I am. I can even stop people on the street, and they have to explain what they're doing on that construction site because I'm so curious by nature. So I think it's not an accident that I ended up building a school, but I think all the different episodes in my life helped me to gain that multi-perspective thing, because I think learning and teaching is not, it's more, it's a mix between an art and a craft, and there is no academic approach to it only. I think there is a lot of, what artists do, and we do work a lot with artists in Shiftschool, and it's not so much a science, it's more about trying and experimenting with different things and trying things out and see what works and what doesn't. And I think that's that kind of attitude I've acquired over the years, but it took me a long time to get there.
But the journeys that are more complex usually, and I also say that from experience, are very enriching in the sense that you can gather a lot of different experiences, a lot of different insights. You get the chance to discuss with people from a variety of different backgrounds, different countries, different perspectives. And instead of walking down the beaten path, you create your own. And creating one's own path is always going to take more time than going down a path that has already been established for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So in that sense, the complexity is, perhaps it makes it longer for anyone to reach a goal, but it also makes it more interesting and more appealing and more enriching, both personally and then collectively once this person starts sharing those insights and sharing those experiences. I think this is perhaps both an advantage and a curse for any polymath, because polymaths usually they are interested in so many different topics, but to become an expert in any given topic, you need a lot of time. You need 10 years to become really an expert in said topic. So for a polymath to engage in so many different directions, it takes a lot more time to really dig as deep as one would love, as one would like, while still carrying that diversity. So it can be frustrating at times. We might get back and think, oh, it took me a lot of time. Yes, of course it took me a lot of time, because I was interested in so many different things, and there's nothing wrong with that.